Welcome to Finologix. Today, we're diving into the absolute battlefield that is the streaming wars. We're going to break down how the undisputed king, Netflix, was pushed to the absolute brink of collapse and how it fought its way back. I mean, it's kind of wild to think about now, isn't it? But it really wasn't that long ago. Their former CEO, Reed Hastings, actually said their biggest rival wasn't HBO or Disney, but the basic human need for sleep. That's how completely they owned our attention. They just seemed untouchable. So, to really understand the crisis that almost took them out, we've got to rewind. We have to go back to the very beginning, to the simple but honestly revolutionary promises that built the entire Netflix empire from the ground up. These ideas were a huge deal back then. Seriously, no ads? Nobody was doing that. Dropping a whole season at once? That literally changed our culture. It created the binge watch. And one simple price, no hidden fees. This wasn't just a product. For millions of us, it became a new way to live. And that head start was absolutely everything. With basically zero competition, Netflix just hoovered up millions of subscribers. They took on billions in debt to crank out a mountain of original content, building this incredible fortress, while everybody else was still figuring out the game. But, all good parties have to come to an end. The old media giants, the very companies Netflix had been disrupting for years, they finally woke up. And let me tell you, they weren't just showing up to compete, they were coming to take their kingdom back. And look, this wasn't just a random flood of new streaming apps. Each one of these competitors was like a highly trained assassin with a specific weapon. You had Disney Plus with its absolute fortress of beloved characters. HBO Max came in with its reputation for pure quality. Amazon used a brilliant Trojan horse strategy, bundling video with Prime delivery. And Apple TV Plus? They just came in with a blank check for the biggest names in Hollywood. Each one hit Netflix exactly where it hurt. $17 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's how much Netflix was forced to spend on content every single year just to try and keep up in this new multi-front war. It was a crazy, unsustainable arms race, and the cracks were definitely starting to show. And this, right here, is where the story takes a really dark turn. That magical growth engine, the flywheel that had been spinning faster and faster for a decade, it just suddenly sputtered and then broke. The momentum that seemed unstoppable, well, it slammed into a brick wall. For a company that was defined by nothing but insane, explosive growth, the absolute unthinkable happened. In 2022, for the first time in over 10 years, that growth didn't just slow down, it went into reverse, and Wall Street was completely shocked. They lost 200,000 subscribers in just the first 3 months of 2022. Now, you might be thinking, 200,000, they have over 220 million. But here's the catch. For a company whose entire stock price was built on the promise of endless growth, going backward was a seismic event. It was a catastrophe. The fallout was immediate and it was brutal. The company's stock price just collapsed, down over 70%. Billions upon billions of dollars in value just poof, vanished, almost overnight. The myth of Netflix being invincible was officially dead. So what on earth went wrong? Well, it kind of boils down to 3 core problems. First, the content glut. In that race to have the most stuff, quality really took a backseat to quantity. For every Stranger Things, there were like 100 shows you forgot about the second the credits rolled. Second, price fatigue. People were just tired of paying more and more. And then the really big one, password sharing. 100 million. That's the mind-blowing estimate of how many households were watching Netflix for free. Now, when you're the only game in town, you can kind of laugh that off. But when you are in a street fight for survival, that is a massive, gaping hole in your revenue that you have to plug. Fast. So, faced with a true existential crisis, Netflix had a choice: adapt or die. They chose to adapt. And they did it by taking their own sacred rulebook, tearing it into pieces, and writing a whole new playbook for survival. Their response was this bold 4-part strategy. First, they did the thing they swore they'd never do. They launched a cheaper plan with ads. Second, they finally started cracking down on password sharing. Third, they went all in on their global strategy. And fourth, they started moving into totally new areas, like gaming. And that third point, going global, that turned out to be their secret weapon. Their superpower, really. See, while rivals like Disney are still very Hollywood-focused, Netflix built this incredible machine that can create a hit anywhere. Squid Game from Korea, Sacred Games from India, Money Heist from Spain, and turn it into a global sensation. That's something that is incredibly hard for their competitors to copy. So, where does all this leave us? Well, Netflix survived the war, for sure. But that peaceful, uncontested kingdom, it's gone. Forever. The company that came out the other side of this fire is a completely different animal. I mean, this slide says it all, doesn't it? The old promise of no ads ever is now a cheaper tier with ads. The beautiful one simple price model has been replaced by multiple, kind of confusing price points. To survive, Netflix had to kill the very things that made it Netflix. The bottom line is the Netflix of today is leaner, tougher, and way more pragmatic. It's no longer that cool, carefree disruptor. It's a hardened veteran that knows it has to fight tooth and nail for every single dollar and every single subscriber. And this is their new reality. Their survival now depends entirely on creating those massive global hits, the shows that everyone, everywhere, is talking about. The throne isn't guaranteed anymore. It has to be earned over and over and over again. So what about you? What do you think is the next big shockwave coming in the streaming wars? Let us know your predictions down in the comments. And for more deep dives like this, make sure you subscribe to Finologix. Thanks for watching.